Hello. Hello. Hello, chat. How are you guys doing? What's up, Wing Chun? What's up, Wing Chun? How's it going? Hey, Didi. Alphonse, thanks for the nice message. Bigfoot, what's up, Bigfoot? Hey, Hope, how's it going? Hey, Dan, glad you could join. Hey, Katie, glad you could join. You're calling... Good evening, Lin family. I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that. Not really. I'm gonna have to warm myself up to that name. Did you get, what's up, Nikki? How's it going? It's like we're mobsters. Hey, Insomniac, how's it going? Did you guys? I did a post on the community page on the YouTube channel. Did you guys hear about there's a Japanese mermaid, a mummified mermaid. They're like, oh, scientists working to unravel mystery of 300-year-old mummified mermaid with a human face and a tail. So apparently this is a ningyo, right? This is a Japanese mermaid. It has a weird face and a fish tail. Right? It looks like a monkey / fish hybrid. It probably is. But apparently the question, people are so curious that scientists are going to do a DNA test of this thing to see what it is, right? What do you guys think it is? It seems to be some sort of fish, and then someone sewed a fish on top of some kind of monkey thing. Yeah. It looks big here, but it's pretty small, actually. Like, let me see if we can look at the size. It's pretty small. I think it's like this big or something. Yeah. What do you think it is? Do you think it's a real mermaid? Sounds like some bored farmer trolling the monks, maybe. Can you make soup out of it? I am not sure. Do you like monkey soup? I don't know if that's any good. Have I heard of hurdle? What is hurdle? What is hurdle? Tell me. Hey, Tom. Thanks. I appreciate it. More Infamy merch? A merch of this? Maybe. Stop. Probably a taxidermy fake. It can't be fake, right? I mean, it can't be fake as in, like, people didn't just make it. They actually sewed a fish on top of a monkey. Anyways. Hurdle? It's like Wordle for music? Oh. Wait. Hurdle. Oh, do you guess the song? Oh, I'm gonna do real bad. I'm not good with music. Alright, let's try it. Yeah, how do I play it? Wait, that's it? I have no idea. This is too hard, guys. This is too hard. Anonymous rapper. Why is it in pain? I don't know. Oh, that's true. Alright, I'm not doing hurdle, okay? I'm not doing this hurdle. It's too hard. Music is not my thing. Yeah, why does it look so bad? Alright, let's do our daily Wordle thing. Oh, whoops, wait. Hold on. I have it on another. Alright, now looking at chat. Alright. Before we get started, we'll do this. I always start with stomp now. And then Orei. Oh, I figured out what Orei means. Someone told me. It means a Roman coin. Okay. So apparently Orei means Roman coins. I think we got this, guys. Trei. Te. Trie. Tried. Okay, okay. T-I. T-E-T-I-E. Tear. Tears? No. Teary. Tiger. No, he's not there. Tier. T. Or maybe it's T-E. T-E-X-I-R? Texer. Teamer. Teener. Teller. Teaker. Tiber. Tees. No, that can't be right. Tiger. Tifer. Teaser. Tewer. Tier. Tier. Teaser. No. It has to be I. T-I-E. X-R-X. E. Wait. T-I. T-I-E. R. X. Tier. Tier. Tiern. Tib. Tirv. Turks. Turks. Tired. Tire. Turn. What is this stupid word? T-I-E. Tier. Is that a word? T. Tears. Tiern. Tirk. I don't know. That doesn't look right either. X-E-I-R. There. Oh. Pfft. Is it there? It's gotta be. Got it. Genius. Genius. You're pretty sure it's avocado. Okay. Hello? Who guessed that first? Oh, someone guessed that pretty quickly. Anonymous rapper. You got this on the 5th try? Fourth try, baby. Oh, guess what, guys? I got my first loss. I was so sad. I used to have a 100% win rate. I died. I lost one game. Now it's over. It's over, guys. I was so sad. I win a cookie. Nice. And what I could do is just delete the cookies, and then I'll get a 100% win rate again. All right. Still a winner though. All right, let's see what Baksu has for me today. What is this? It looks like edamame, but we'll see. Oh, is it? Hold on. No, it's not. It's some salty cookie kind of thing. Can you see it? No. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, it's rice cake. It's rice cake. Edamame flavor. It's pretty good. Oh, not bad. This is 8 out of 10. A little bit salty, a little bit sweet. Just right. It's pretty good. It says poisonous cake. Don't eat it. Too late. All right. All right, boys and girls. All right, how we doing? Let's do a recap of what happened last week. All right. Wait, is the camera a little bit low today? It used to be higher, right? I don't know. Is this okay? Is this camera angle okay? You see more of my mic. I don't know if you want to see that. All right. So what happened last week? So last week, our hero Duan Yu and the others, they're meeting at this place within the estate of the Murong family, right? Now the servants gave them food, and this old man servant greets them. But then Duan Yu, he's pretty smart, right? He smells the same young woman scent coming off from this man as he did before, right? But this old man seems to have a scent, like a perfume, I guess, of a young woman, right? And he figures out that this old man is just a girl in disguise. It turns out she's actually Ah Ju, which is another servant girl, right? A servant girl different from Ah Bi. So she leaves and she comes back disguised as an old aunt of Mu Rongbo, who passed away, right? So Duan Yu hints that he kind of knows this and he's just playing along. And the servant girls grow fond of him, right? They like him. Seems like a pretty nice dude. Jiu Mozi, our Tibetan monk, or evil Tibetan monk, he says to Duan Yu that he says that Duan Yu knows the divine sword of the 6 meridians, which is the Duan family's secret martial arts, right? And he has sealed Duan Yu's acupuncture points so that he can't use it. Now the girls pretend not to believe it. To get Jiu Mozi to unseal his acupoints, right? So he can fight back. But to their surprise, Jiu Mozi unseals his unseals Duan Yu's acupoints, right? He just does it, and he tells Duan Yu to show everyone the secret martial arts, the secret Duan family martial arts, the divine sword. But Duan Yu refuses. He doesn't do it. So the monk attacks the servant girls, right, to force him to use it. So Duan Yu is forced to respond, but he kind of sucks right now. Okay, he doesn't really know martial arts, so he doesn't really do any damage. And so the monk is fighting, and the fight gets out of hand. Now the servant girls were like, "Stop! Okay, we believe you. Okay, we believe you." And they promised to take the group to Mu Rongbo's tomb the next morning, because Jiu Mozi wants to go to the Mu Rongbo's tomb to do his sacrifice. He wants to sacrifice Duan Yu in front of the tomb. So they promised to take them to the tomb the next morning. They bring them to this house near the waters, and they serve the guests dinner, right? Now, after the dinner, they tell Duan Yu, the servant girls, they tell Duan Yu to come here. Hey, look at this cool zither, right? So he comes over, and Aju plucks a string on the zither, and he and the two servant girls drop down this secret hatch onto a boat, right? And then they row away. Okay, it's a secret escape plan. Jiumotsu sees this, and he like throws stuff at them, and then he rows after them, but he doesn't really know the place. He's not really good at rowing either, right? But the servant girls, they know the place, so they hide, right, in the waters. While they're hiding, one of the servant girls, Abi, she needs to pee. She's like, "Oh no, I can't pee here in front of a man." So they decide to stop by the house of Madame Wang, right, reluctantly. So apparently Madame Wang is this person who has had a conflict with their old dead mistress, right, when the mistress was alive. So they kind of don't want to bother her, but they need to pee. So they stop at this place, at her house. And that's what happened. How's that? Who are also his half-sisters? Probably not his half-sisters. Duan Yu meeting a new girl every chapter, maybe. All right. Let me switch to my screen. All right, chapter 12. Henceforth obsessed, or forevermore intoxicated. The small boat weaved its way past a copse of weeping willows. Far in the distance, a reflection of crimson blossoming flowers could be seen in the water, as glorious as rosy clouds in the sky. Duan Yu let out an exclamatory "ah" of appreciation. Aju asked, "What's wrong?" Pointing to the blossoming flowers, Duan Yu said, "These are the camellia flowers native to Dali. How is it that this type of Dian tea leaves exists in the middle of Lake Taihu as well?" So they're in the middle of the lake. Camellia flowers of Yunnan province were the most famous of all, and were known as Dian tea leaves. Dian is another name for Yunnan. Aju asked, "Really? This place is known as the Highland Manor of the Mantuo flowers. It's filled with camellia leaves." Duan Yu thought to himself, camellia flowers are also known as jade leaves, but a third name for them is Mantuo flowers. Since this place is named after camellia flowers, it should be interesting for me to see what famous techniques they use to cultivate them here. Rowing the oars, Aju sent the boat speeding directly towards the midst of the camellia flowers. As soon as they reached the shore, Duan Yu cast a glance at the land, but all he could see was red and white camellia flowers, with no buildings anywhere in sight. Duan Yu was raised in Dali, where camellia flowers were commonly seen everywhere. He didn't think the sight was particularly extraordinary at all, and thought to himself, although there are a lot of camellia flowers here, none of them appear to be of high quality. I imagine that the best specimens are probably within the manor itself. Want to see a camellia flower? All right. These are camellias. Yay. Aju pulled the boat ashore and smiled. Young gentleman Duan, we'll go inside for a bit. We'll come back out very shortly. Holding Abi's hand, or she needs to pee, she prepared to jump ashore, but suddenly the scattered sounds of footsteps could be heard, and a servant girl dressed in green appeared. The girl was holding a bunch of flowers and plants in her hands. Upon seeing Abi and Aju, she hurriedly rushed towards them, her face filled with happiness. Aju, Abi, you two are really too daring. You snuck over here again? The madam said, use a knife to cut across the faces of those girls and ruin their flower-like, pure as jade complexions. Aju laughed. Sister Yo Tao. Sister Yo Tao, is the madam at home? The servant girl Yo Tao cast a few glances at Duan Yu, turned her head towards Aju and Abi, then laughed. The madam also said, those two brats are also brought a strange man to the highland manor of the camellias. Go and chop off that man's legs immediately. Before she finished the sentence, she began to laugh out loud. Patting her heart, Abi said, Sister Yo Tao, don't scare us. Is that really true? Aju laughed. Abi, don't be scared. If the madam was really at home, how would this girl have the courage to be so impish and mischievous? Little sister Yo Tao, where did the madam go? Yo Tao laughed. Pooh! How old are you? Are you fit to be my big sister? Clever little demon that you are, you actually managed to guess that the madam isn't at home. She let out a light sigh. Sister Aju and Abi, it's such a rare occasion that you two can come visit. I really want to keep you two here for a few days, but... As she spoke, she shook her head. Abi said, I really want to spend some extra time with you too. Sister Yo Tao, whenever you are able to come and pay a visit to us, I'll accompany you 3 days and 3 nights without even getting sleepy, all right? As they spoke, Aju and Abi went ashore. Abi whispered quietly into Yo Tao's ears. Yo Tao let out a sudden laugh, then glanced at Duan Yu. Abi immediately blushed scarlet. Pulling Aju with one hand and Abi with the other, she laughed. Let's go inside. Abi turned her head and said, Young gentleman Duan, please wait and rest here for a bit. We'll be back soon. Ruined their flower? Duan Yu replied, okay. He watched as the 3 girls happily walked hand in hand into the forest of flowers. He too walked ashore after first checking to make sure no one was about. He relieved himself by the side of a tall tree. He sat the benefits of being a guy. He sat next to the boat for a while, slowly growing bored. He thought to himself, why don't I go check out what types of extraordinary camellia flowers they have here? He began to stroll around and view the sights. Aside from camellia flowers, there were no other flowers or plants here, not even the most commonly seen plants such as the morning glory, climbing roses, or red roses. But all of the camellia flowers were very mundane and not the least bit extraordinary. The only thing extraordinary was their quantity. After walking for 100 or 200 meters, the diversity of the camellias improved, and occasionally there were some high-quality ones, but even those were not planted properly. He thought to himself, this manor is named after camellia flowers, but they absolutely ruin these perfectly fine camellias. Then he thought to himself, I need to go back. If Aju and Abi can't find me upon returning, they'd be really worried. Turning around, he headed back, but after taking a few steps, he exclaimed to himself, how terrible! During his journey through the sea of flowers, he had only paid attention to the scenery and not to the path he had taken. Two small roads forked away from each other. One headed east, the other headed west. He didn't know which one was the road he had originally taken. Ah, crap. Our hero is lost. Our great hero. It would be a bit difficult for him to retrace his steps and return to the place where the boat was anchored. He thought to himself, let me go to the water's edge first. But the farther he walked, the more he felt he was going in the wrong direction. All of the camellias he saw were new ones that he hadn't seen previously. Just as he was starting to get worried, he suddenly heard someone speaking from a forested area to his left. It was Aju's voice. Guan Yu was overjoyed. He thought to himself, I'll wait here for them a while. After they're done chatting, we'll leave together. He heard Aju say, the young master is in good health and has a healthy appetite. These past 2 months he has been practicing the dog-beating staff technique of the Beggars clan. It seems he will soon spar with the members of the Beggars clan. Guan Yu thought to himself, Aju is talking about the affairs of young Master Murong. I shouldn't eavesdrop on other people's private affairs and should walk a bit further away, but I can't go too far, or else I won't know when they are done talking. How is this guy still alive? He's our hero, okay? Don't speak ill of our hero. Just at this moment, he heard the sound of a gentle sigh from a female voice. Instantly, Guan Yu's entire body involuntarily trembled. His heart began to beat frantically as he thought to himself, what an incredibly lovely sigh that was. How could there be such a beautiful sound in the world? Okay. That voice gently asked, how do I do a lovely voice, guys? How do I do a lovely sigh? Where is he headed this time? After having heard her let out a sigh, Guan Yu's mind was shaken. Now, hearing her say this sentence, he felt as though all the blood in his body was boiling. He felt a sour, bitter feeling in his heart and an unspeakable degree of envy and jealousy. She clearly is asking about young Master Murong. She's so concerned about him and cares so much about him. Young Master Murong, how is it that you have been blessed with such incredibly good fortune? Nailed it. You like my sigh? Aju said, when the young master left, he said he was headed to Luoyang to meet with some masters of the Beggars clan. Big brother Deng went with him as well. Miss, set your heart at ease. The female slowly said, the Beggars clan possesses 2 divine skills, the dog-beating staff technique and the 18 dragon subduing palms technique. These 2 are secret skills which are not taught to others. Even if we compile all the information in your water pavilion of bestowal and repayment and our jade cavern library, we would only be able to piece together some fragmentary, incomplete staff techniques and palm techniques. We would have no information at all about how the internal energy is supposed to be generated. How exactly does your young master practice the technique? Aju said, the young master said the internal energy component of the dog-beating staff was invented by human beings. Why can't I figure out how it works on my own? Since I possess the staff techniques, it shouldn't be too hard for me to understand the internal energy component. Guan Yu said, young Master Murong's words make some sense. He probably is an extremely talented, extremely ambitious person. You'd like to be a master of the Beggars clan? The Beggars clan is actually pretty big. I think it's the biggest clan. Like the biggest, biggest sect in this world. That female let out another soft sigh. Even if he's able to figure it out, it would take 8 or 10 years. How can it be accomplished in such a short time? Did you see the young master practicing the technique? Were there any sluggish, awkward-looking parts? Aju replied, the staff technique was executed extremely quickly by the young master. From the beginning to the end, he executed it smoothly and gracefully. The female let out a cry. That's not good. He really executed the technique very quickly? Aju said, yes. Why? Is that wrong? The female said, naturally, that's wrong. Although I don't know the internal energy component to the dog-beating staff, judging from the staff techniques themselves, there are several parts where the slower the techniques are executed, the better. There are some other parts which fluctuate between being slow and being fast. In the fast movements, there is hidden slowness, and within the slow movements, quickness is hidden. There's no question about that. Even if he just focuses on executing the technique very quickly in fighting with the experts of the Beggars Clan, I fear, you two, can you think of a way to bring a message to him? Aju let out a groan. We don't know what route the young master is taking or where he is passing by. We don't even know if he's already met with the elders of the Beggars Clan. Before he left, the young master said that the Beggars Clan was wrongly accusing him of having murdered their vice clan leader, a man surnamed Ma. His purpose in going to Luoyang was to defend himself against these chargers and not necessarily to fight against them. Otherwise, he and Brother Dung, despite being heroes, would be unable to overcome the sheer advantage in numbers which the Beggars Clan possesses. I'm just worried that he wouldn't be able to fully explain everything and that the two sides will become estranged. Abi said, Miss, is it really so improper for him to execute the dog-beating staff technique very quickly? The female said, naturally, it is definitely improper. What else is there to say? Why didn't he come and visit me before leaving? As she spoke, she lightly stamped her feet, seemingly very agitated and deeply concerned, but her voice remained tender, soft, and lovely to hear. Oh, you think he's going to learn another technique by accident? You're kind of liking this young master? Maybe he's not a villain. Who knows? Duan Yu was extremely astonished. He thought to himself, in Dali, everyone spoke of Gusu's Murong family with the utmost reverence and fear. But from the words of this girl, it sounds as though young Master Murong needs her advice and her pointers on martial arts. Can it be that such a young girl possesses such an incredibly high level of ability? Lost in thought, he suddenly bumped his head onto a tree branch. Whoops. Our hero. He couldn't help but let out a cry. He hurriedly shut his mouth, but it was too late. The female asked, who is it? Duan Yu knew that he was unable to hide, and so coughed and said from within the thicket, I am Duan Yu. I was touring your respected Manners Camellias and accidentally arrived here. Please forgive me. The female said in a low voice, Aju, is it the gentleman who arrived with you too? Aju hurriedly said, it is. Miss, don't mind him. We'll leave immediately. The female said, wait. I'm going to write a letter and explain to him that if he really gets into a fight against the Beggars Clan, we must not use the dog-beating staff technique, no matter what. He needs to use his own original skills. Even if he's unable to use the opponent's skills and exercise them upon the opponent, there's no other option. Take the letter and think of a way to get it to him. Aju hesitantly said, the madam once gave orders. The female said, what? You only obey the madam's commands and ignore mine? In her voice was the slightest hint of anger. Aju hurriedly said, Miss, as long as you keep the madam from finding out, your humble servant will naturally follow your orders, especially seeing as how this is beneficial to our master. The female said, come with me to the study room to prepare the letter. Aju still seemed very hesitant and only reluctantly said, all right. Is this the same Beggar Clan master as in the Condor Heroes? No. No. This is the same Baker's clan, but I don't think it's the same person. Dog beating staff. When you put my videos on, your husband makes you turn it up? Hell yeah, I like your husband. He's a good guy. After hearing that first sigh, Duan Yu was becoming only more and more enthralled by this girl. He's falling for a girl just by her sigh. Hearing that she was about to leave, he feared that he would never be able to meet her again. This would be something which he would regret all his life, even if it were mean risking being blamed as too forward and bold. He had to see this girl with his own eyes. Summoning up his courage, he said, "Sister Abi, can you stay here for me just a bit?" Wait, can you stay here with me for a bit? As he spoke, he walked out from the thicket. Upon hearing him walk towards them, the female let out a startled cry and hurriedly turned her back to him. After leaving the thicket, Duan Yu saw a maiden who wore a pale and pinkish gray garment. Her face was turned towards the flowers. Her form was slim and slender. Isn't slim and slender the same thing? With long hair hanging over her back and gently tied together with a silvery hairpin. Gazing at this maiden's back, Duan Yu couldn't help but feel as though she was enveloped by light mist and clouds, as though she really weren't a person of the mortal world at all. He deeply bowed and said, "Duan Yu pays his respects to you, miss." The girl stamped on the ground with her left foot. "Aju, Abi, this is all your fault. You know I do not associate with male strangers." As she spoke, she walked forwards. After a few twists and turns, her form gradually disappeared within the dense growth of camellia flowers. Hey, Kyler, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. A small smile on her lips, Abi said, "Young gentleman Duan, this young lady has a really bad temper. Let's leave, quickly." Ajus also softly laughed. "Thank you very much for rescuing us from this predicament. If you hadn't, Miss Wong would have forced us to deliver a message on her behalf. Our petty little lives would have been put at risk." So her name is Miss Wong. Duan Yu had summoned all of his courage to rush out like that, but then was scolded by the girl. He felt deeply snubbed and was worried that Aju and Abi would blame him as well. He didn't expect that the two of them would actually be grateful towards him instead. Only, although that maiden was now far away, her pretty shadow, still seemed to be before his eyes, filling his heart with melancholy. He dully watched as her back disappeared into the clusters of flowers. Abi gently tugged on his sleeves, but Duan Yu still remained in a daze. Aju laughed. Young gentleman Duan, let's go." Duan Yu's entire body jumped, only after calming himself. Did he say, Right. Are we really leaving?" Aju and Abi walked in the front, leaving him with no option but to follow them. With each step he took, he looked back, filled with a reluctance to leave. The three of them returned to their small boat. Aju and Abi picked up their oars and rowed out. Duan Yu gazed at the camellias on the shore, thinking to himself, "If I, Duan Yu, am an unlucky man, how could I have had the great fortune to hear that girl's sighs and her words, much less see her goddess-like form? If I am a lucky man, why is it that I didn't even have the chance to see her face?" As the camellias grew more and more distant, his heart became more and more downcast as well. Okay, let's hope that's not his sister, too. The Duan family gene is strong in this one. Truth. Suddenly, Aju let out a startled cry. "Ah, the madam has returned." Turning his head, Duan Yu saw a fast ship flying towards them. In the blink of an eye, it drew near. On the front of the ship's bow was painted an innumerable amount of multicolored flowers. When the boat drew nearer, it became evident that these too were camellia flowers. Aju and Abi stood up, bowing their heads and staring at their feet, appearing to be extremely respectful. Abi repeatedly gestured towards Duan Yu, telling him to stand up as well. Smiling, Duan Yu shook his head. After the master comes out and speaks, I will naturally rise to my feet. A real man cannot be too humble and modest. A female voice shouted out from the fast ship. What male has the audacity to charge into the highland manor of the camellias? Can it be that he doesn't know that any male who comes uninvited will have both his legs cut off? Oh no, is that the rule? The voice was very stately and majestic, but was also very clear, melodious, and pleasing to the ear. Duan Yu replied in a loud and clear voice, I am Duan Yu. I temporarily took refuge in your honored abode and had no intentions of charging in. I sincerely thank you. The woman said, Your last name is Duan? In her voice was a hint of astonishment. Duan Yu replied, Precisely so. The woman said, Aju, Abi, so it's you two brats. That boy, Mu Rongfu, refuses to learn how to act properly. Sneaking and sly, he specializes in doing bad things. Aju replied, Reporting to madam, this servant was pursued by enemies and passed by the highland manor of the camellias. Our young master has left, and this matter truly has nothing to do with him at all. The woman laughed coldly. Nothing more than sweet words and blandishments. Don't be so hasty to leave. Come with me. Aju and Abi replied simultaneously, Yes, madam. They paddled their small boat towards the fast ship. Actually, they had not traveled too far from the manor, and in a short time both ships successively docked at the shore. Duan Huan. That's funny. The sound of jewelry clinking against each other could be heard, and many females in green clothes exited the fast ship. All of them were dressed as servants, and each of them wielded a longsword in their hands. In the twinkling of an eye, their bared swords covered the ground like frost, light of their blades reflecting onto the flowers. 9 pairs of servants came out in total. The 18 of them formed 2 lines, holding their swords at waist level, pointed upwards. After they finished lining up, a woman left the ship. Upon seeing this woman's appearance, Duan Yu couldn't help but let out an involuntary, that's a typo, right? Involuntary cry of startlement. He was temporarily tongue-tied, feeling as though he had entered a dream world. This woman was dressed in light yellow. In her clothes and in her decorations, she seemed exceedingly similar to the jade statue within the cavern with Mount Wuliang of Dali. Only this female was a beautiful married woman who appeared to be not quite 40 years of age, whereas the jade statue portrayed a girl of 18 or 19. So she looks kind of like that statue he found in within that cave, right? After his initial surprise, Duan Yu took another look at this beautiful woman. Compared to the jade statue, her eyebrows, lips, and nose were not as peerlessly gorgeous, and obviously there was an age difference as well. In addition, her face showed the marks of hardship suffered during her journey through life. Nonetheless, there was still a 50 or 60% resemblance. Seeing him stare at Madame Wang without blinking, Aju and Abi felt that he was really being too impolite, and in their hearts, both of them were groaning. Me too. Me too, guys. They repeatedly gestured towards him, telling him not to stare, but Duan Yu's eyes remained fixed on Madame Wang's face. The woman glanced at him, then coldly said, This person is totally without courtesy. Later, chop off both his legs, gouge out his eyes, and rip out his tongue. A servant bowed and said, Yes. Duan Yu's heart sunk. If she really wants to kill me, fine, but to chop off my legs, gouge out my eyes, and tear out my tongue, putting me in a half-dead, half-living state, would be a really, really bad thing. Only now did fear truly enter his heart. Turning around, he glanced at Aju and Abi. Both of their faces had turned a deathly pale color and were transfixed with fear. Okay, so she's not kidding. Oh, do you guys think that she is the statue? Like, is the statue a statue of her when she was younger? After Madame Wang left the cabin, 2 more servant girls followed her out, each holding a set of metal chains in their hands. They dragged 2 chained males from within the cabin. Both of the males were bound by their hands and appeared to be very dejected. One man had a delicate and pretty face, seeming like a scion of a wealthy family. The other person Duan Yu recognized. He was a disciple of Mount Wuliang's sword sect named Tang Guangxiong. Duan Yu was amazed. This person resides in Dali. How is it that he was captured by Madame Wang and brought to Jiangnan? So a disciple of the Mount Wulang's sword sect. Okay. Madame Wang said to Tang Guangxiong, "You are obviously from Dali. Why do you deny it?" Tang Guangxiong said, "I'm from Yunnan. My hometown is within the borders of the Great Song and is not part of Dali." Madame Wang asked, "How far is your hometown from Dali?" Tang Guangxiong said, 400 li or so. Madame Wang said, "If you aren't over 500 li away, you might as well be considered a person of Dali. Bury him alive beneath our camellias as fertilizer." "What on earth have I done? Tell me clearly, otherwise I will not be able to close my eyes even in death." Madame Wang coldly laughed. "Anyone I meet who is from Dali, or who has the surname Duan, will be buried alive. Why did you come to Suzhou? After you did come to Suzhou, how dare you speak with a Dali accent and make a loud commotion at the upstairs of the tavern? Even though you aren't from Dali yourself, you are a neighbor of Dali. I'll treat you the same way I would treat them." So she hates the Duan family. Why? Why? Duan Yu said to himself, "Aha! You obviously are directing that to me. There's no need for you to ask. I'll just admit it, point blank." He loudly shouted, "I am from Dali, and my surname is Duan. If you want to bury me, go ahead, and be quick about it." Madame Wang coldly said, "You already reported your name, saying that you are called Duan Yu. No person from Dali who is of the Duan family will be allowed to die so easily." She waved her hand, and a slave girl pulled Tang Guangming away. Tang Guangming must have had his acupoints sealed or sustained severe injuries. He wasn't able to resist in the slightest. Wait, did his name change? It was Tang Guangxiong. Then now it's Tang Guangming. Is that a mistake? Tang Guangming must have had his acupoints sealed or sustained severe injuries. He wasn't able to resist in the slightest. He only shouted, "There's no such rule in the world! There are millions of people within Dali. Can you kill them all?" But as he was dragged deeper and deeper into the sea of flowers, his voice gradually grew faint, then disappeared. Madame Wang inclined her head slightly and said to the delicate-looking man, What do you have to say for yourself?" That man suddenly fell to both his knees, kneeling in front of her. "My father is an official in Beijing, and I am only his son. Madam, I beg you to spare my life. If you have any instructions, my father will definitely carry them out." Madame Wang coldly said, "Your father is a powerful official within the imperial court. Do you think that I don't know that? There's an easy way for you to be spared. This very day, go back to your home and immediately kill your official wife. Then, tomorrow, immediately marry your secret lover, Miss Miao, and take her as your wife. The wedding ceremony needs to be complete and done properly. The 6 ceremonial rites must be conducted, and the 3 documents must be completed. Will you accept?" The man said, "This, I can't really bear to kill my wife, and my father and mother would definitely not allow me to formally marry Miss Miao. Isn't this my..." Madame Wang said, "Take him away and bury him alive." The servant holding his chain said, "Yes." Tugging at the chain, she started to drag him away. The man was so frightened, his entire body quivered. I agree, all right." Madame Wang said, "Xiao Cui, escort him to Suzhou. I want you to personally witness him killing his wife and marrying Miss Miao returning." Xiao Cui replied, "Yes." She dragged the man towards another boat on the shore. What is it with this woman? What is going on here? Why does she want this dude to kill his wife and marry his lover? His secret lover, yeah. The man begged, "Madam, be merciful. My wife has no enmity with you. And you don't know Miss Miao. Why must you help her like this and force me to kill my wife? I've never been acquainted with you, much less have dared to offend you. Since you already have a wife, you shouldn't have entangled yourself with another maiden. Since you deceived the girl with your flowery words and lies, then you definitely must take her as your wife. If I don't hear about these types of things happening, then no matter. But if I do find out, then of course I will handle the situation. You aren't the first one I've done this to. What do you have to grumble about? Xiao Cui, how many times have we done this?" Xiao Cui said, "I have done this 7 times at places such as Changshou, Danyang, Wuxi, and Jiangxing. Xiaolan and Xiaoxi have also overseen a few of these events." Hearing that this was how she always handled this sort of affairs, that man could only moan and groan. Rowing the oars, Xiao Cui propelled her boat off into the distance. You think Duan Yu's dad did her dirty? Maybe. Seeing how this Madame Wang handled matters in totally irrational ways, Duan Yu was boggled, totally struck dumb. The only thing which filled his mind was 4 words. This is absolutely preposterous. Unconsciously, he blurted those words out. This is absolutely preposterous. This is absolutely preposterous. Madame Wang let out a humph. There are even more absolutely preposterous things in the world. Many more. Duan Yu was both disappointed and miserable. That day, when he found the statue of his dear goddess within the jade cavern of Mount Wuliang, his heart was filled with admiration. The person in front of him appeared similar to the jade statue, but in speech and demeanor acted as though she were a demoness or an evil spirit. Yeah, but he doesn't know the speech and demeanor of the statue. How do you know she was... How do you know if her speech and demeanor was similar to the jade statue? Drinking anything good? I'm drinking water. I didn't make tea this time. Maybe next time. Lowering his head, he was lost in thought. 4 servant girls left the cabin of the fast ship, each holding a vase of flowers. Duan Yu, upon seeing them, was startled. All 4 vases were filled with rare, famous, and extremely difficult to obtain breeds of camellia flowers. Dali possessed more and better camellia flowers than any other place in the world, and within the South Subduing Palace alone were innumerable camellias. Duan Yu was long since used to seeing them. When bored, he would listen to the 10 famous gardeners who served at the palace comment on and appraise the camellias. Naturally, he fully understood the differences between superb breeds of camellias and poor breeds. His understanding in this field was as deep as that of a farmer's understanding of the differences between beans and wheat, or a fisherman's understanding of the difference between fish and shrimp. After strolling about the highland manor of the camellias for some time, he was unable to find a single truly outstanding breed of camellias, and had long since decided that the manor did not live up to its name. But at this moment, seeing those 4 vases, he inwardly said, "Now that is more like it." Madame Wang said, "Xiao Ta, it was very difficult for us to obtain these 4 full moon camellias. They need to be taken good care of." The servant named Xiao Cha said, "Yes." Duan Yu felt that these words were too amateurish and let out a sneer. Madame Wang said, "Because the wind on the lake was too strong, we've kept these 4 flowers within the cabin for many days now. It's been a while since they've gotten some sunlight. Quick, take them to a place where they can drink some sunlight. Add some extra fertilizer as well." Xiao Cha repeated yes. Duan Yu could no longer hold in his mirth and began to roar with laughter. Madame Wang felt that his laughter was weird and asked, "What are you laughing at?" Duan Yu replied, "I laugh at the fact that you know nothing about camellias, but insist on planting them. For such an exquisite specimen to fall into your hands is truly a waste, like burning a zither for firewood or cooking a crane for meat. This really disheartens me. What a pity, what a waste. I feel so sorry for it." Madame Wang angrily said, "I don't know anything about camellias. So you do?" But suddenly her heart stirred. "Wait," she said to herself. "He's from Dali, and his surname is Tuan. Maybe he does really understand camellias." But her words were still stubborn. "The name of this manor is the Highland Manor of the Camellias. Camellias populate this place inside and out. See how exuberant and brilliant they are. Why do you say that I don't understand camellias?" Duan Yu smiled. "Commonplace flowers of low quality will naturally flourish, but the 4 vases of camellias you have there are exquisite specimens. If amateurs like you are able to properly plant and take care of them, then my surname isn't Duan." Ooh. That's right. True burn. Jake. Thanks so much, Jake. What do you mean what happened? I don't understand what you mean. Digging his own grave. Madame Wang exceedingly loved camellia flowers. She didn't care about the cost. Wherever she went, she would purchase beautiful specimens to take home. But when the new camellias arrived, not a single one of the famous and rare specimens would thrive or flourish. Usually, within a year or so, they would wither and die, or be at death's gate. He was right. She was always vexed by this problem. Now, hearing Duan Yu's words, her anger turned to joy. She took 2 steps forward and asked, "What is so special about these 4 vases of camellias? What must I do to make them flourish?" Duan Yu replied, "If you want to consult me, then you need to follow the proper etiquette for asking advice. If you want to threaten and compel me into answering, go ahead and chop off my legs first. You can always ask me afterwards." Madame Wang angrily said, "What's so difficult about chopping your legs off? Xiaoshi, chop his leg off. Chop his left foot off first." The servant girl named Xiaoshi replied in the affirmative, then advanced towards Duan Yu, sword in hand. Abi hurriedly said, "Madam, don't you be doing that, yeah? If you hurt this fellow, he's really stubborn-like and would rather die and speak." Wait, that should be, "and would rather die than speak." Madame Wang only wanted to scare Duan Yu in the first place. With a wave of her hand, she beckoned Xiaoshi back. Alright, guys. Be right back, okay? 5-minute break. I will be right back. Whoops. I was making tea, okay? The playlist kept going on. I made pandan leaf tea. It's my favorite tea. It's really good. All right. What is camellias? This is the camellia flower. It looks pretty, right? Yeah. So apparently this place is full of camellia flowers. All right, so what is this lady's relationship with the Duan family? Why does she hate them so much? I should make camellia tea next time. You're making me buy new kinds of tea. Camellia tea? Is that good? The tea camellia is a hardy evergreen shrub or a small tree that is probably the most widely. Wait, is it? So camellia sinensis are the plants we have to thank for white, green, oolong, and black teas? No, so the camellia plant is just a tea plant, right? Wait, really? Camellia sinensis are the plants we have to thank for white, green, oolong, and black teas. So all these teas come from the camellia plant or the Camellia sinensis. Is that true? Apparently Wikipedia says it's true for all teas. White, yellow, green, oolong, dark, and black tea are all harvested from one or two major varieties. Okay. So in a sense, I am drinking camellia tea, since all tea is camellia, apparently. No? I think I read this a long time ago. I remember it. I think I read it a long time ago. Like all teas come from one plant. But then there are like herbal teas. I don't think those come from this plant. Like those are different. Cool. Wait, let's ask. Do all teas come from the same plant? Yes, you read right. All tea, whether it's black, blah, 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 come from the Camellia sinensis plant. Oh, it's true. Wait, what about this place? Sort of. All teas from the same species of plant. Na, 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 na. Na, na, na. It is a processing of the leaves that determines what type of tea it becomes. Contrary to popular belief, there is no such thing as green tea plant or a black tea plant. There are many varieties of camellia, but most are used as ornamental shrubbery. Oh, it's true, guys. It's true. Okay. Cool. You can pretty much put leaves in water and call it tea. I don't know, man. Actually, maybe you're right. I am drinking pandan leaf tea. So the pandan plant is not really a tea plant. Yeah. But you need some tea in there, right? You can't just put any plant. It'll taste weird. Is there a kratom tea? How long is oolong tea? Nice one, Nikki. Good job. Yeah, and herbal tea is technically not a tea. Okay. Yeah, not technically tea, I guess. Anyways, Where were we? Duan Yu laughed. Go ahead and chop off my legs, then place them next to those 4 vases of white camellias. They really will serve as superb fertilizer. These white flowers will grow bigger and bigger, and maybe they'll flourish into a sea of camellias. Ha ha! Beautiful, wonderful, brilliant. Madame Wang originally really was thinking of doing just that, but Duan Yu's every word was filled with irony and sarcasm, rendering her speechless. After being stunned for a moment, she said, What are you babbling about? What exactly is so special about these 4 vases of mine? Tell me, if you are correct, I'll pay the proper respects to you then. Duan Yu replied, For starters, Madame Wang, you made the mistake of calling these flowers full moon camellias. If you don't even recognize what the exact breed of flowers you have are, how can you be said to understand flowers? One of the flowers is named red makeup white wrappings. Another is called clawing a beautiful woman's face. Intrigued, Madame Wang asked, Clawing a beautiful woman's face? Is there really such a weird flower name? Which one is it? Duan Yu said, If you want to ask for my advice, you need to follow proper etiquette. Duan Yu had mocked her mercilessly, without her being able to defend herself. But upon hearing that one of her 4 vases of flowers had such a unique name, Madame Wang was filled with delight. Smiling, she said, Fine. Xiao, order the cooks to prepare a banquet at the Pavilion of Glorious Clouds in order to entertain young gentleman Duan. After acknowledging the order, Xiao left. Aju and Abi gazed at each other, seeing that Duan Yu had not only escaped death, but was also now being treated as a guest by Madame Wang. Both of them were overjoyed at the surprise. The servant who had taken Tang Guangxiong returned and reported, That person surnamed Tang from Dali has already been buried beneath a red camellia in front of the Pavilion of Rosy Clouds. Wow. They just killed that dude. Poor dude. What the hell? He didn't do anything wrong. Duan Yu's heart went cold. Madame Wang didn't seem to care at all. She simply nodded, then said, Young gentleman Duan, please, come this way. Duan Yu said, I dare to disturb you. I am very blessed indeed that you, my host, are so forgiving. Madame Wang said, An able and worthy person has come, bringing great honor and glory to the flowers and ramparts of the highland manor of camellias. The two of them spoke courteously to each other as they walked, not revealing a shred of the life and death danger Duan Yu had been in just moments ago. With Madame Wang accompanying Duan Yu, the two passed by a forest of flowers, a stone bridge, a small alleyway before arriving in front of a small pavilion. Below the eaves of the pavilion, Duan Yu saw an inscribed wooden board with the words Pavilion of Glorious Clouds written in blackish-green ink in the seal script style. Camellia flowers blossomed all around the pavilion, but in Dali, these camellia flowers were considered to be 3rd or 4th class rubbish. Their appearance totally clashed with the refined-looking and elegantly constructed pavilion. Madame Wang actually seemed to be very pleased with herself. Young gentleman Duan, in your Dali, are there many camellia flowers? There are many camellia flowers, but I'm afraid that compared to my place, there still aren't quite as many. Duan Yu nodded. It's true we don't plant this sort of camellia flowers in Dali. Madame Wang chortled. Really? Duan Yu replied, In Dali, even country bumpkins know that these camellias are not of a very high quality and too mundane to plant. Oof. The color of Madame Wang's face changed, and she angrily said, What did you just say? You say that these flowers of mine are of poor quality? Aren't these words of yours too infuriating and insulting? Duan Yu said, Madam, if you don't believe me, that's your choice. Pointing to a gorgeous 5-colored camellia in front of the pavilion, he said, This flower you no doubt treat as a special precious treasure, right? Actually, the jade railing next to the camellia is made from actual Hantan jade. It's very beautiful, very beautiful. He was gushing with praise for the jade railing next to the camellia while not saying much about the flower itself. This was akin to a person, while viewing someone else's calligraphy, praise how dark the ink was and how famous and rare the paper was. This camellia was both red and white, both violet and yellow. The variety of colors it possessed were magnificent and resplendent. Madame Wang had always treated it as a treasure. Now, seeing Duan Yu showing such disdain for it, she immediately furrowed her eyebrows, emitting a murderous look from her eyes. Duan Yu said, "Madam, if I may ask, what is this flower known here as? If I may ask, what is this flower known as here in Jiangnan?" Madame Wang vehemently said, "We don't have any particular special name for it. We just call it the five-colored camellia." Duan Yu smiled. "But we in Dali have a name for it. We call it the veiled scholar." Madame Wang spat. "Bah! Such an ugly name. You must have made that up. This flower is gorgeous to behold. Why would it be called a veiled scholar?" Duan Yu said, "Madam, please take a look and count for yourself. How many colors do the blossoms of this camellia flower have?" Madame Wang said, "I counted them long ago. There is at least 15 or 16. Duan Yu said, There are exactly 17 colors. In Dali, there is a famous camellia flower called the 18 scholars. It is one of the highest grade camellias in the world. Each plant has precisely 18 flowers, and each flower is of a different color. The red flower is totally red. The violet flowers are totally purple. There's not a single hint of intermingled color. In addition, the shape of each of the 18 blossoms is different as well, with each possessing their own unique beauty. When they bloom at the same time. When they wither, all 18 flowers wither at the same time. Madam, have you seen it before?" Madame Wang had been listening. Stunned, she shook her head. "Camellias like this actually exist? I've never even heard of it." Such naming. Duan Yu said, "Compared to the 18 scholars, there are some other famous flowers that are similar to it in quality. The 13 grand protectors are camellia plants that have 13 blossoms, each with a totally different color. The 8 immortals crossing the sea refers to camellia plants with 8 different colored blossoms. The 7 celestial maidens refers to camellia plants with 7 different colored blossoms. The 3 heroes of hardship have 3 blossoms, and the 2 Qiao sisters have 2 blossoms, one red and one white. For all of these camellia flowers, the color of each blossom must be pure. If there's a hint of white within a red flower, or a blush of red in a white flower, it is considered a low-grade version." Madame Wang couldn't help but be carried away and raptured by his explanations. Lifting her head up, she quietly whispered to herself, "Why didn't he ever tell me this?" Who's he? Guys, huh? Who's he? Duan Yu continued. "Within the 8 immortals crossing the sea, there must be a deep violet flower and a light red flower. These 2 represent iron-crutched Li and female celestial He. If this isn't the case, even if all 8 flowers have different colors, they cannot be called 8 immortals crossing the sea. They would simply be called the 8 precious adornments. They are also considered to be famous flowers, but are a level inferior to the 8 immortals crossing the sea." Madame Wang said, "So that's how it is." Duan Yu continued, "Now let's talk about the 3 heroes of hardship. There's differences between high-quality and low-quality versions of these flowers as well. In authentic versions, the violet flower must be the largest in size, symbolizing Qiu Rangke. The white flower is second, symbolizing Li Jing. The red flower is the most delicate and the smallest, as it represents Lady Hongfu. If the red flower is larger than the violet flower or the white flower, then the flower is considered to be of low quality and has a much lower status ranking." Duan Yu spoke of these flowers as though he were enumerating his own family's valuables, because these flowers were indeed treasures of the Duan family. Naturally, he was very familiar with them. Madame Wang listened to him talk with keen pleasure. She sighed. I haven't even seen low-quality flowers, much less high-quality ones. Duan Yu pointed towards the 5-colored camellia. This flower not only has one less color than the 18 scholars, but the flowers are not pure in color. They bloom at different times and are all of different sizes. In every aspect, it attempts to imitate the 18 scholars, but is never able to match up. Isn't that a sad, miserable thing? Thus, we call this flower a failed scholar. Madame Wang couldn't help but let out a breath, then laughed. This flower's name is really too acrimonious and unkind. Most likely you scholars came up with it. By this point in time, Madame Wang had full faith of Duan Yu's knowledge of camellia flowers. She immediately escorted him into the pavilion of glorious clouds. Duan Yu saw that the furnishings upstairs were rich and beautiful, with a large painting of a peacock spreading its feathers in the middle of the room, and 2 matching poetic lines carved in wood at each side of the painting. The lines read, "A dense cloud of leaves coats the land. Even the snow is jealous of the camellia's beauty." Very shortly, the banquet began. Madame Wang invited Duan Yu to take the seat of honor, while she herself took a right-hand seat to keep him company. Now she just likes him. She's totally enraptured. Acrimonious? Oh shit. What does this mean? This flower's name is really too acrimonious. Is too ugly? Or mean? Acrimonious. I think like it's too ugly. Too ugly. Not beautiful. Acrimonious. Angry and bitter. How is that a name for a flower? How does that describe a flower? Oh, the naming of the flower is acrimonious. The naming is angry and bitter. Ah, crap. Oh, you got me. You got me. All right, you get one song. Just like his dad? Truth. The dishes prepared at the banquet were very different from the ones which Aju and Abi had earlier prepared. The dishes Aju and Abi prepared were very light and refined, showing great craftsmanship in simple dishes, but the banquet dishes at the Pavilion of Glorious Clouds emphasized luxuriousness, with such rarities as bear paws and shark fins. Every dish was made from rare and precious ingredients. Duan Yu, being a scion of the royal family, had become accustomed to eating rare and precious dishes since birth. In his mind, the banquet here was actually inferior to the food the 2 girls prepared at the Pavilion of Zither Melodies. After 3 rounds of drinks, Madame Wang asked, "The Duan family of Dali is a famous aristocratic family of the martial world. Why is it that you do not study martial arts?" Duan Yu replied, "There are a large number of people in Dali who have the surname Duan. Only the royal descendants of the imperial family study martial arts. Commoners like me do not study martial arts." Oh, he lied. Whether he would live or die was wholly under the control of this woman. Being in such a humiliating position, he had decided that no matter what, he could not reveal his real identity, for fear of degrading the fame and prestige of his uncle and his father. Madame Wang said, "You are a commoner?" Duan Yu replied, "I am." Madame Wang said, "Do you know any members of the royal Duan family?" "None whatsoever." Madame Wang was lost in thought for some time, then changed the topic. Earlier, you were speaking about the various merits and qualities of camellia flowers, causing me to suddenly see the light. The flower artisans of Suzhou, from whom I acquired these 4 vases of flowers, called these flowers full moon flowers. But you said that one is named red makeup, white wrappings, and that another is named clawing a beautiful woman's face. I don't know how they can be told apart, and would like to ask for your advice. Define scion. Scion is like it's a descendant, like a son or a descendant of a noble family. Or usually referred to the son or descendants of a royal family. Yeah, a descendant of a notable family. Duan Yu replied, "The plant with the large white flowers with faint black spots is the one known as the full moon flower. Those faint black spots are the cassia twigs which grow on the moon, and the other plant with white flowers which has 2 olive pit-sized black spots on the petals is known as the beautiful eyes flower." That is a very good name. Duan Yu continued, "The plant with the white flowers that are sprinkled with red dots is known as red makeup white wrappings. Lastly, the plant with the white flowers covered by a faint green sheen and thin hair-like strips of red is known as clawing a beautiful woman's face. However, if too many of those red lines appear, the flower is no longer known as clawing a beautiful woman's face, but rather it is called resting on a lovely railing. Madam, please consider this. A beautiful woman must be gentle, refined, and warm. If by chance a scratch occasionally appears on her face, it can't be because she damaged herself while putting on makeup, nor can it be that she got into a fight with someone else. The only possible explanation is that while she was playing with her parrot... What is this? While she was playing with her pet parrot, it scratched her. This is very normal and understandable. Thus, this flower must have a green sheen, which represents the green feathers of a parrot. But if her entire face is scratched and clawed, the only explanation is that this woman always gets into fights with others, in which case, how can she be considered to be beautiful? Up until now, Madame Wang was repeatedly nodding as he spoke, very pleased. Suddenly, her face sunk with anger as she shouted, "How dare you! Are you mocking me?" Duan Yu was startled, then hurriedly said, I wouldn't dare. I don't know how I offended you, madam." Madame Wang angrily said, "Whose stories did you listen to for you to come here and concoct these wild lies to insult me? Who says that a woman can no longer be considered beautiful after learning martial arts? What's so good about being gentle, refined, prim, and proper?" Duan Yu was startled. "My words were based upon the standard, accepted explanation for the naming of this flower. There are many women who know martial arts that are both beautiful and stately." He didn't expect that Madame Wang found these words grating to the ear as well, as she yelled, "So are you saying that I'm not stately?" Duan Yu replied, "Whether or not you are stately, you yourself know best, madam. How would I dare to comment wildly? But for you to demand that a man murder his wife and wed another woman is definitely not proper at all." By now, he himself was getting angry as well, and no longer cared about what he was saying. Uh-oh. She mad. Madame Wang gestured with her hand, and the 4 girls who were serving them stepped forward in unison. Bowing, they said, "Yes, madam." Madame Wang said, "Take this man into your custody, and away from my sight. I command that he be given the task of watering my camellias." The four servants said in unison, "Yes, madam." Madame Wang said, Duan Yu, you are a person from Dali, and your family name is Duan. I should have killed you long ago. For the moment, I'll postpone your execution, but I'll punish you by giving you the task of taking care of all the camellias in this manner. You need to take special care with the 4 which we have brought home today. Let me be clear. If a single one of these 4 vases of camellia flowers dies, I would chop off one of your hands. If 2 die, I would chop off both. If all 4 die, I will turn you into a limbless cripple. Damn. Duan Yu asked, and if all 4 live? After all 4 flowers begin to flourish, your job will be to cultivate other famous camellias for me. 18 scholars, 13 grand protectors, 8 immortals crossing the sea, 7 celestial maidens, 3 heroes of hardship, and the 2 Qiao sisters. I want several of each. If you can't accomplish it, I'll tear out your eyeballs. Duan Yu loudly objected. These famous flowers are rarely seen, even in Dali. It will be almost impossible to find them in Jiangnan. If you can get several of each just like that, how can they be considered to be rare and precious breeds? Just go ahead and kill me now. I refuse to accept the torture of having you cut off my hands today and gouge out my eyes tomorrow. Madame Wang loudly rebuked him. You must be tired of living to act so rudely in front of me. Take him away. The 4 servant girls walked towards him. 2 of them grabbed him by his arms, one by his chest, with the last grabbing him by the back. All 5 of them descended from the top floor of the pavilion. All 4 of the servant girls knew martial arts, and Duan Yu found himself totally unable to resist. All he could do was secretly lament, Damn it! Damn it! Pushing and tugging, the 4 servants pulled him into a flowery nursery. One servant stuck a gardening hoe in his hand, while another grabbed a watering pail. She said, If you listen to the madam's orders and obediently water the flowers, you can keep your life. But the way you keep offending her, you are tremendously lucky that she didn't immediately order for you to be buried alive. Another servant said, Aside from doing your duties to preserve the flowers, you aren't allowed to run about wildly within the manor. If you break into one of the restricted areas, no one will be able to save you. It's the equivalent of asking to die. The 4 servants lectured him in extremely solemn tones for some time before leaving. Duan Yu could only blankly stand there, not sure whether he should laugh or cry. At Dali, he was only inferior in rank to his uncle and to his father. In the future, after his father ascended to the throne, he would become the crown prince. How could it have happened that he was kidnapped and brought to Jiangnan, almost be burned to death, then risk having his arms and legs chopped off or his eyes gouged out? As if that wasn't enough, now he was forced into being someone else's gardener. Even though he had an amiable temperament and in his palace often chatted with the gardeners while watching them prune the flowers, work the earth, and spread the fertilizer, he was still a prince. In his heart, he felt that gardeners were very lowly people. You would settle to be a gardener? Not that bad. Not a bad job, right? Madame Wang is not a nice person. Nope. Fortunately, he was a happy person and a lively spirit by nature. Upon meeting any problems or setbacks, at most he would only be dispirited for a short while before becoming happy again. He said to himself, At the Jade Cavern of Mount Wuliang, I already kowtowed and accepted the dear goddess as my master. Aside from the age issue, this Madame Wang looks very similar to her. Why don't I just think of her as my martial uncle? It's natural for a pupil to labor hard and obey the commands of his master. Not to mention, cultivating flowers is an artistic sort of work, done by literati. It's definitely much more elegant and sophisticated than waving around sabers or poking around with spears. And it's definitely 10,000 times better than being burned alive by Jiu Mozi in front of Mr. Murong's tomb. The only problem is, these flowers are really too inferior in quality. Having the Prince of Dali take care of them is a waste of talent, like killing a scrawny chicken using a giant blade meant for butchering a cattle. Haha, actually, can I be really considered a cattle butchering blade? Wait, can I be really be? What? Can I be really be? Can I really be considered a cattle butchering blade? What sort of flower planting talent do I have, anyhow? Samwise Gamgee, who was a gardener? He was. Then he thought to himself, if I stay at the Highland Manor of the Camellias for a bit longer, there's always the chance that I might have the good fortune of seeing that girl who wore the pale pinkish gray dress. This can be called Duan Yu. How do you know that planting flowers won't be a lucky thing for you? Still thinking of her. Considering the question of whether he was lucky or unlucky, Duan Yu grabbed a handful of grass. Let's see how long it will be before I have the chance to see that girl. He began to pass the grass from his left hand to his right, and from his right hand to his left, trying to tell his fortune. After divining for some time, he ended up with a gen, divinatory symbol, with an upper gen and a lower gen. Huh? He thought to himself, you shall see her back, but you will not win her body. You shall go to her courtyard, but you will not see her person. No fault. This divination is really appropriate. Even though I won't see her, in the end, it won't be my fault. Dude, she probably your sister. He started over. This time, he ended up with a kun divinatory symbol, along with an upper dui and a lower kan symbol. He inwardly groaned, hard pressed down amongst plants, as though you had entered a secluded valley. You will not present yourself within 3 years. I won't even see her within 3 years. I really am very hard pressed. Then he thought, if I can't see her within 3 years, that means I'll see her in the 4th year. There's plenty of time in the future. Why think of myself as hard pressed? Since his divinations were very unfavorable, he dared divine no more. Humming a little melody, he picked up the hoe and began to stroll about aimlessly. He thought to himself, Madame Wang told me to make those 4 vases of white flowers flourish. These 4 plants are truly famous breeds. I really need to find a very graceful I need to find a very graceful place to plant them, so as to show them off in the proper setting. While strolling about, he reviewed the local scenery. Suddenly, he burst out in loud laughter. Madame Wang doesn't know a damn thing about camellias, but insists on planting them, and even calls this place the Highland Manor of the Camellias. She doesn't even know that camellias prefer the moon, not the sun, and planted them in places where there is a lot of sun. Even if the flowers manage to somehow survive, there is no way they can flourish, and she smothers them with fertilizer, by which point any and all famous breeds of camellias will have been killed by her. What a waste, what a waste, but so funny, so very funny. He avoided the sunlight, only going to shadowy areas underneath trees and other large plants. After passing a small hill, he heard the gurgling of water. To his left-hand side was a row of green bamboo plants. The entire place was very quiet and secluded. The area was hidden in the shadow of the hill, where the sun could not reach. Madame Wang, knowing that this place was not suitable for planting flowers, did not plant a single camellia here. Duan Yu was overjoyed. There's no better place than this. Returning to his starting place, he carried the flower vases one by one to where the bamboo plants were. He shattered each porcelain vase, then planted each camellia along with the mud in the vases. Although he had never done this before, he had seen this done many times. Surprisingly, although he was just making it up as he went along, he did it perfectly. Within an hour's time, he finished transplanting the 4 white camellias next to the bamboo. He planted the clawing a beautiful woman's face to the left, the red makeup white wrappings and the full moon to the right, and the beautiful eyes flower right behind a large boulder. He said to himself, "This is like the saying, only after you call and entreat her to come out many times does she appear, carrying a pipa and covering half her face." When these plants are placed in an appropriate setting, do their true beauty and charm shine. In Chinese history, flowers have always been compared to beautiful women. The art of cultivating flowers is equivalent to the art of a beautiful woman using makeup. Duan Yu came from a royal family and read many books. Naturally, his understanding of these things was a level above most people. Stretching his hands into the small stream, he washed away the dirt and mud. Taking a seat on top of the boulder, he then stared at that beautiful eyes camellia plant, turning his head this way and that to view it from every angle. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, he heard the sound of footsteps coming from a distance. Two females were walking his way. One of them said, "This place is the most quiet and secluded place here. No one ever comes." The sound of her voice was very pleasing to the ear. Duan Yu's heart thumped loudly. The voice obviously belonged to the girl who wore... Oh, we meet again. The voice obviously belonged to the girl who wore the pale pinkish gray dress which he had seen earlier in the day. Duan Yu held his breath, not daring to make the slightest sound. He thought to himself, "She said she refuses to meet with any male strangers, and I, Duan Yu, obviously am a male stranger. For me to be able to listen to her say a few words and hear her goddess-like a voice is already my infinite good fortune. No matter what, I can't let her know I am here." His head was originally leaning towards one side. Now he didn't even dare straighten his neck, so he just left his head in that inclined position, rather than risk his neck straightening and making even the slightest bit of noise, scaring that girl. That maiden continued, "Xiaoming, what have you heard regarding news of him?" Duan Yu couldn't help but feel a sour feeling in his heart. The him the maiden was referring to obviously couldn't be himself, Duan Yu. Rather, it was young Master Mu Rong. From Madame Wang's earlier words, young Master Mu Rong seemed to have the given name of Fu, recover. The maiden's questions seemed to be filled with concern and tender affection for him. Duan Yu could not control the feelings of jealousy from springing forth from his core as they once more hurt his heart. Xiaoming mumbled haltingly for a long time, appearing to be very uncomfortable. The maiden said, "Tell me, I definitely will take good care of you afterwards." Xiaoming said, I'm afraid that madam will blame me." The madam said, "Silly girl, after you tell me, do you really think I will go tell the madam?" "What if the madam asks you?" "Naturally, I still won't tell her." Xiaoming hesitated for another period of time before saying, "Your cousin, the young master, went to Shaolin." "Your cousin?" Why? The maiden said, "Shaolin, why is it that Aju and Abi said he was going to Liaoyang to meet with the Beggars clan?" Duan Yu thought to himself, "Her cousin, the young master? Oh, young master Murong is her maternal cousin. The two of them must share the innocent affection of cousins, which they have had since childhood. Then... Xiaoming said, "This time, when the madam was out traveling, she came across second master Gong Ye. He said that all the leaders of the Beggars clan have come to Jiangnan, intending to put on a huge show of force and question the young master about something which had to do with one of their masters. Second master Gong Yu said that he received a letter from the young master. The young master wrote that he had arrived in Luoyang, but was unable to find any of the leaders of the beggars, and so went to Mount Song to visit Shaolin." The maiden said, "Why did he go to Shaolin?" Second Master Gong Yu said that in the letter, the young master wrote that an old Shaolin monk died in Dali and that Shaolin was falsely accusing Gusu's Murong family of having done the deed. The young master was very angry. Fortunately, Shaolin isn't very far away from Luoyang, so he decided to go there and clear up the matter. The maiden said, "If he's unable to clear things up, then won't things end up in violence? Since the madam found out about this news, why did she come back home instead of rushing to Shaolin to help the young master out?" Xiaoming said, well, I don't know. I imagine that it is probably because the madam doesn't like the young master." The maiden angrily said, "Even if she doesn't like him, he's one of us. If Gusu's Murong family loses face to outsiders, will our Wang family gain anything from it? Will our Wang family gain anything from it?" Xiaoming did not dare to reply. The maiden walked back and forth near the copse of bamboo plants. Suddenly, she saw the 3 white camellia plants which Duan Yu had planted, as well as the shattered remains of the porcelain vases. She let out a startled sound, then asked, "Who is planting camellias here?" And we're done.